In this video, we're going to take a look at a shimmering green ink by Diamine Magical Forest. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the green ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you could find those there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The lighting's fair. It's always tough to get with all the shimmer. So where you see it really starting to go away, that's what it is more of the shimmer with the light to the camera. Now we have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We are actually getting a little bit of shading in the stub and in the extra fine, but not so much in the medium. The extra fine took 7 seconds to dry and the medium took 10. Now the scrubby for both, far left to far right, you do see some shading, even in that medium. Although it doesn't come through in the medium and it's much harder to see on camera for the extra fine. The smear test says you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Noodler's Naponzit with a music nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We are seeing some spots of shading come through with the extra fine, even some coming through in the medium. So not too bad, especially on this paper. The extra fine and the stub are the same tone, while the medium's a little bit darker. Extra fine took 11 seconds to dry and medium took 16. Scrubby for both give no color variation, although we are getting some spots of shading in the writing, even on this paper. Now the smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And it's a very super light green at the bottom and a very dark at the top. I really do think this is two different greens making this, which is allowing its shading to come through. But the one on the right that's allowed to dry for 10 minutes really is confirming that suspicion. The much lighter green is really staying down below where the glitter line is, while the much darker green is moving away. It does mean that light green might be a resistant color. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get some shading. The extra fine comes through a little bit lighter than the stub. Now the stub doesn't have so much shading, but the extra fine does. You can see it in quick and in brown, but then also, I mean, it's there on Fox, but the glitter is hiding it. The medium doesn't have any and is by far the darkest tone on the page. I think it looks best here. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry and the medium took 11. The scrubby for both shows color variation, but I am not seeing it come through in person, but looking at it on camera, the medium looks like it might be showing a little bit, so that's a tough thing to say. The smear test says you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, you know, there's a little bit of spread and a little bit of feathering that's going on, but on the majority, I think it's held together very well and could be used in a note-taking situation if you wanted to go back and highlight. Water's lifting all that dark green, but leaving the light green there, and pen flesh is doing the same thing. Now, despite that, it only took water to clean this out of the pen. 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the paper, but it's leaving this kind of peachy tone in its place, which is weird. The next writing sample is done on G-Lalo paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get a few spots of shading in the extra fine. It's the same tone as the medium. Now the medium didn't have shade, but the extra fine gets a few spots of it, much more noticeable in lazy. Medium is the darkest tone on the page, and it even manages to show bits of shading throughout. Sometimes it's an entire word being much darker than other words. Sometimes words go from light to dark. Now the extra fine took 5 seconds to dry, and the medium took 8. Scrubby for both show a little color variation, but it's definitely there in the writing. And the smear test I do think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Magical Forest had a viscosity of 1.55, so it's a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now, let's take a look at Apica CD notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen. We do get shading, not so much in the stub. We do get it in the extra fine. We get it in the medium. Much more noticeable, I think, in the medium than in the extra fine. The medium's much darker than everything on the page. Extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, and the medium took 9. The scrubby for both show a little bit of color variation, but I think it comes through nicely in the writing. And the smear test, you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Magical Forest has an average dry time of 10 seconds, so it's a little bit faster drying than normal. The last writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph paper. No bleeding. Let me take that back. We do have a couple bleed spots. Start over. Start over. We do have a couple bleed spots, and as I'm retaking this, you see I've already circled them. They did not come through and touch the page underneath. They won't stop you from using the back of the page, and we have no real ghosting. Now, we have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade in the stub, nice shade going on in the extra fine, no shade going on in the medium. Now, the extra fine's a little bit lighter than the stub, while the medium's by far the darkest tone. Extra fine took 5 seconds to dry, and the medium took 7. The scrubby for both, or scrubby for the extra fine, shows some color variation, and we do see it, and the medium shows none, where we got none. Now, the smear test you could definitely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Magical Forest, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice brown ink by Sailor, their Piano Mahogany. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those color playlists. So what do I think of this shimmering ink by Diamine Magical Forest? I really lost track to be able to do this because I lived a nightmare. After filling, I spilled the ink and 35 minutes to clean up the glitter that just won't die. There's just too much glitter. It frequently overpowers the ink, hiding it. And this is such a good green ink, it shouldn't be hidden, unfortunately. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A wet broad, naturally. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at KWZ's Grapefruit.